So I'm Thomas Smittle, and I'm a trainer here for RTF. I'm an independent contractor, and I work with a few different rescues around the country. I'm helping them train horses and manage horses. And I got into this work straight out of the prison program. I was there for a couple of years in the prison program in Carson City, Nevada, the Stewart Conservation Camp. I was in that program. I began there in 2009 and ended my sentence in 2011. And prior to my release, I was offered a job on a project that RTF and Lifesavers was doing with a few other rescues that are well known in the rescue world. And at that time, I'd only known Mustangs in the sense of how we gentle them there. So the prison program is it's a partnership between the BLM and the Department of Corrections of Nevada. So they have two sort of missions there. One is they have temporary holding for up to, they've had as many as 3,000 horses there at one time. And then the other mission is to have a horse program where they gentle and saddle start once wild horses that were brought off the range. And then every 3 months, they'll do an adoption. They call it an adoption, but it's really a competitive bid auction scenario where the public will come in and they'll bid on the horses after a short time with the trainers and the horses and sort of get a feel for how the horse is that they're interested in. So that being said, back to when I started working in the free world was with RTF and Lifesavers Wild Horse Rescue on a project in Fallon, Nevada, where they had, I think they had over 1,000 horses there. Paiute, it was a Paiute rescue, and then Netta had some of the calico horses there. To get to Stewart Camp, you have to be able to be classified into a minimum security honor camp. You have to have that classification, what they classify as a minimum medical camp, because it's close to the main yard, and if you have diabetes or you're on special meds, you need to be close to a physician, a prison physician. And then they have the land base there to hold 3,000 Mustangs. It's an operating ranch. They cut their own hay, and they have a dairy herd, and they process them and pasteurize their own milk. They have a small beef herd, and then they have the prison program there. And it's all ran by inmates and just oversaw by free staff. So if you get classified to Stewart Camp, you have to meet some requirements. You can't have a lot of write-ups when your time, the time that you're currently serving. You can't have escapes, no violent crimes, no sexual crimes. And you kind of have to, you don't have to necessarily have horse experience, but the guy that runs the program, I asked him once. So I go, Hank, what do you look for in guys when you're doing interviews? Because, there's a lot of turnover there. He goes, well, a guy has to want to try. He has to have some trying, and I can tell right off in an interview if he's just here doing his time, if he's going to waste my time, and I'm not going to, I'm not interested in that. I need people that are so that. And he sort of looks for guys that have not necessarily a lot of time, but a good amount of time to do. So you're not just sort of passing through, or you're there a couple months and you're gone. So if you have 6 months to a year, you need to be. That's another criteria. Military, construction guys, if they're used to hard work, they're used to teamwork, that sort of thing. And that's what he told me about that when he's interviewing guys. So I got paroled from my main sentence, was a burglary. I did 4 years prior to that, and then got my parole to my last sentence, and then I got reclassified because you have to have 3 years minimum, I think is what it is. Anyway, so I was paroled from my burglary to my embezzlement, and right away I was reclassified, and I already had a medical classification because of I needed a lower bunk and a flat yard restriction because of my back. There was a shoo-in for that camp. Well, it never occurred to me that I didn't even know they had a horse program there. I knew it was like a passing thing, but at the time, horses were not sort of on my radar. My radar was drinking, partying, chasing chicks around, going to work when I needed some money, and not even really that much, and just kind of, I wasn't behaving very well as a good human being, in a productive way, So that really wasn't my thing. I've been around horses, but I didn't realize what they meant or that sort of thing like I do now. It's a lot different. It's on a whole deeper level. Anyway, so I pull up there and start unpacking my stuff, and I see a couple guys that I saw in other facilities, and they were in the horse program. And right away, I'm asking, where's all the jobs at? I didn't want to get a job. And da-da-da-da. And I'm like, well, they're hiring. They need 2 people at the horse program like right now. And I, really? And he's like, yeah, fill out an application. I'll take it in for you. So I did. And he turned it in and got an interview the same day. And I went through Hank's interview, and yay, there I was. I was hired in February, last week of February, like the 28th or 29th, like right in the middle of winter, the coldest time, and they just sold a group of horses, so they were like the first week into their new group of horses. So I got to see it from the beginning, but I didn't really know what I was looking at, if you know what I mean. The as far as the process goes. I mean, I saw the pins and the horses, but the process of connection and control and through connection and all that sort of thing was the furthest thing from my mind. Well, there's a handful of guys, like around 20 guys, and some of the trainers who have been there for some time and know the program and are fairly decent with horses. They may have 2 horses, so we had 30 pens and they were all full. So that gives you an idea of kind of draw a picture for you. So we got 20 guys, 30 horses, and every guy is working with their individual horse, albeit there might be a couple guys that have 2 horses. So it went along like that. We went to work at 7 in the morning and feed and clean with the new guys. So you got to get out there and get the hay and listen to instruction, feed every horse, every pen, and then muck every pen, and that's sort of the routine at the beginning of the day. Beyond that, I wasn't assigned a horse right away, and nobody really is. No, you don't get a horse right away. You watch, do a lot of watching, and the dynamic, the prison dynamic alone, everything is divided on race. That's sort of the lingo is you go with your own. Your car is the lingo. So I went with my car, which is native guys, and Bo was there, and so I watched Bo. He was working with this, just the ugliest horse ever, but he was cool. His name was, we called him Shenane. So Shenane was like a curly bastard something or another. He had like this 2x4 head, just block head, and he had these waves of curly hair and just this nappy mane and tail. And it's cold, man. I mean, it's February, and I got my coat on. I'm just like watching him. I don't know what the hell he's doing, but he's doing, he's trying to get this horse caught in a 20 by 20 square pen. That's how we, how the horses are housed, and we work them in there. And then we have round pens too, but I remember standing in front of that pen like all day long for a week, just watching it. It's sort of like orientation, I guess. You get the feel of the place. And I got my first horse like a week after that, and I named him Rabbit. He was a black and white gelding, and that's the way it kind of went. So I got Rabbit going, and 3 months later we adopted him out. I cried too the first time. I mean, that was my first horse. I really got connected to him, and it was something new to me. I was like, whoa, man, what is this I'm feeling? This is kind of heavy. And so I think Bo might have sensed him. He's like, don't worry about it. We got a lot of them out here. This horse is fine. He's getting his transition into domesticity, so you played a part in that. So good job. There's 3 of us that got hired at the same time. It was myself, Lechuga, a young Mexican kid, and then some white guy, I can't remember his name, but he only stayed for a little short while. So we have all of our pens. There's like 3 rows, 10, 5, 10, 15, all the horses that aren't assigned, they're way back in the corner by themselves. So we have to see them every day because we're feeding and cleaning their pens. So I'm just kind of looking over there going, I wonder which one I'm going to get. I wonder which one I'm going to get. And so Hank finally said, so you can go ahead and start on that horse in the corner over there. So it wasn't, it was just a horse to me at the time. And I was getting a little excited now because Bo was explaining to me, over the course of the week, how, this is what you got to do to sort of get him to pay attention to you. And I think he actually let me get in the pen a couple of times and try it out, but it was completely foreign to me. I felt like, just think of the most awkward time you ever felt, and that's what I felt like. Well, in the beginning, I had no clue what that was. took me a long time. It was hard for me to pick this way of the horse up. I'm telling you, like a year. My learning curve was huge. I don't know why. Yeah, I know what it was. I think because I'd been around horses at younger, I wouldn't have thought I knew something. You know, I had horses as an adult a few times, so I think that was really in my way. Because I thought, oh, my grandpa, we did all this, blah blah blah, and I ride horse. I can show these guys how to catch a horse. I got humbled. It took me a year. I guess I was a hard learner, but it came in little pieces. You know, just it came in little pieces where a light bulb would come on. You would get something done and be like, bam, and it worked, and you're like, whoa, that just, and this one's, whoa, and then you get this emotion, and then you're like, you want more. It's like a drug. You're like, I want some more of that, because you have this connection with this point. When he's wild and doesn't want to be touched, and then when he allows himself to be caught, you're like, you know, your confidence, your self-esteem comes up, and you know, you want to try something else maybe. How far can I take this? So that program was set up to rehabilitate inmates. And that's why. If you're open enough to understand what you hope to achieve going in there. And I think that's what a lot of guys don't understand, and myself included. It was a job to me. It was 60 cents an hour, and I was off the yard. It was a way for me to feel like I was not in prison. I looked at it like that. And I got to hang out with my friends. So all of these selfish reasons that I had in the beginning turned out to be a blessing. The program. And you never know what's going on until it's, in retrospect, everything's 2020, right? The way I got involved in the movie was a little interesting. I was contacted by the director of the movie, Laura, 4 years before there was ever a production. And that's when she was trying to develop her screenplay. And so she approached the prison program. You know, told them about her idea and what she wanted to do, and they told her they shared what they could with her about from their point of view, and then she'd ask them, are there any inmates that are out that were in the program that might be interesting to talk with? And so she had a list of names, and I was on that list, so she gave me a call. And I shared what I could with her and wished her luck, and a couple of years later I met with her in Los Angeles, her and Molly, like in 2014 or 15, something like that. I was like, wow, it's really going to be a thing, right? And she's like, yeah, we have a screenplay now, and that's what I want to talk to you about. She had a date, a location, and a trainer, and she wanted to know if I'd call him and have a conversation with him about the horses and the program and different things. So I did, and I met Rex, and him and I talked maybe once or twice, and then got close to October, and I was headed out that way, getting ready to head out to Nevada because I'm living in South Dakota. That's where I live. And I get an offer from Richard Hicks Talent Agency to be the part of Tom. So I'm not really an actor. I've been in documentary stuff before, but I'm not really. I think I'll pass on it. He goes, what if I just send you your parts and then look at it and just don't give me an answer now? I said, sure. So I did, and when I read the whole script and saw that character Tom in there, it reminded me of myself. Well, it turns out it was me. She wrote me into the script. They ended up making a deal with me, and I accepted it. So that's how I got involved. All that being said, so the location was in Nevada State Penitentiary, which is currently a museum, and they leased it out to the production company. So there were no actual inmates there. It was just an empty property. It was fun being in that prison in that scenario. It was kind of surreal. I wasn't at that prison, but it's well known through the system. Guys talk about it. You know, when I was at NSP, blah blah blah, this and that, and NSP, this and that. It's kind of a sort of a moniker. If you were at NSP, you were somebody, you know, because it was a tough prison. So I kind of thought about that when I looked around and saw things. I was like, so this is it. And it's old prison. I think it was built in the 1800s beginning. There's some parts of it that were, some of the cells are carved into their caves. Literally a cave. Some of the first cells, and they were dropping food down through a hole in the top. They had set some pens up, the ones you see in the movie, just outside in the area. And they had a few horses. They had their horses there. It was like nothing I was ever experienced before. You know, the training style is completely backwards to what. Not I want to say backwards, but it challenges natural horsemanship because from what I saw, they teach horses to come into pressure, where a natural way of the horse is sort of, you know what? Horses do both. They come into pressure and they go away from pressure. But the techniques that I learned in the prison program and developed even more at a higher level beyond that, we train horses to go away from pressure. You know, for example, they want a horse to attack somebody, or we did a scene where we had to have a horse just completely rear and like, hell no, we wanted this to make this horse look like, hell no, I'm not going in there. And it made me feel crazy because I'm like, you know, I can trailer a horse pretty good. Some of the even harder ones, I'll get them in there and it'll be their idea. So that's where my mind was at. But there's a trainer right there out of the frame, and when the horse goes to go in, he's smacking it. Hold it. He's not smacking the horse. He's discouraging the horse from going in. So I'm saying go, and the trainer's saying leave. So, and Rex goes, I know that feels ugly, Pard, but, and that was his exact words, Pard. He said, I know it feels ugly, Pard, but that's this is what they want to see on the film. So that's the difference between the natural horsemanship way and the production way. Some of the harder scenes that I really didn't enjoy much were like the culinary scene. And that took us, it seemed like forever when they're shooting. You have to understand in a real life culinary situation, it's very crowded and it's very loud. It's concrete walls, stainless steel tables. You have guards in there screaming and yelling at people. Well, no, they're not screaming and yelling, but they can. And if there's a fight in there, they start shooting guns. It can be very stressful because of the noise and everybody's just real close to each other, and you don't want to, you got to be careful about who you sat with. And that was probably the only scene. Yeah, it was the only scene that gave me a high amount of stress. The rest of them were fine. I mean, I knew I could differentiate. I didn't even realize that was going to be a thing for me until we were doing the scene. I was like, well, I don't like this much. I think I'd like to have this over with as soon as possible. Yeah. There was a stab scene, and that one was kind of fun. Get on the ground. And Henry, there's a scene where he gets killed. Spoiler alert. So this was on a main yard, and there's, I don't know, they had probably 100 extras. I think it was 100 extras, and then the rest of the crew and cast. And so we had to recreate a scene in the prison. So that's where some of the consulting work came in, mostly more with Will and Cameron, some with myself. You know, if this ever happened in the prison, what would happen? Well, first of all, they're going to scream and yell, get on the ground, get down. And if you don't, they're going to start firing rounds into the crowd. After the scene is sort of, the lingo, I guess, is safe and secure, then only then will they, seek medical attention for their inmate. Remember, he's a stud, and he can't, sometimes you won't get along with other horses, so just keep him going, do what you think he needs, and you're hired. So I used him in the scene, or we used him in the movie. In all the scenes, other than there's a short scene when a storm comes, I have Ite Tonka, which was a sweet bow horse. And he's with me at home right now. He's my horse. Oh, that's right, I forgot to add him. There were 7 horses, counting him. Anyway, so there were 7, and one was a bay horse named Ite Tonka. He came from a large rescue out of South Dakota. After the movie, when the production was over, Ned asked me if I'd come out here to the ranch, to RTF, and continue riding him more. And so I have. I've been out a couple different times, and I'm so excited. Netta finally got on him. Not finally. I mean, she wanted to be sure that he was safe to be on, and some horse that she could handle. And after, I think it's maybe 10 sessions on him, maybe less. So I think he's good for you. I think you'll be fine on him. So we took him and rode him around here on the property. And I'm excited for her to move forward with their relationship now. So the name Kola, it's a Lakota word, and it's a term. It's a term of endearment, but it's much more than that. It's a term of friendship, and when I mean friendship, I mean like a really close friendship we have. It wouldn't have to be like we would be in a relationship. We might just be best friends, and I can tell you about some of my deepest thoughts and feelings about things, and ask your advice on some things, and and I could really count on you. If something happened to me, I could count on you to take care of something that was unfinished and that sort of thing. And we reciprocate in that way. In today's world, in Lakota social dynamic, that word's thrown around quite a bit, just like love, like I love you, man, you know, that type of thing. But the true meaning, that's the true meaning of it. And so I like to think of myself as a semi-traditional Lakota person, Lakota man. So I won't use that word unless I think right now I have one kola, and it's a half brother. And I refer to, not often will I use it though. It's like saying I love you. You just don't say that all the time. But in today's social settings, we get loose with that word, and it sort of loses its meaning. Kola as a horse, his personality type. He's a 5-year-old stallion. I don't know what term you like to use, but he's a 5-year-old stud. He's a Hard Mountain stud. He's confident, but at the same time, he's vulnerable. When he matures, he's going to be a deep sort of personality, and he's going to be the kind of horse that will care for you, take care of you, and be mindful of when you need what you need. Those horses are worth their weight in gold, and he's going to be one of those kind of horses where he's really mindful and compassionate of others. The way that he manages his friends and his other herd mates is some horses he doesn't get along with everybody, but you know, he has a bond with Corey especially. The type of riding horse he is, he's going to be very handy. He still has a lot to learn, mostly about how to behave as a stud around other horses. But he's well on his way. You know, he's very sensitive, light on his feet, and Ned has done some work with him at Liberty when he was much younger, and so that really has paid off. When you get in a groove and you have a horse that you're working on and you have a deadline to meet, because everything's on a deadline, and I appreciate that. I think it's a double-edged sword. Out here in this world, we try not to work too much on that sort of a deadline. But so you have a plan, you know, and that's important. It's an important part of your healing and part of your rehabilitation to have a focus, have a plan, have a focus on how you're going to get from point A to point B, and what you need to look like when you get there. You live in the camp. It's an honor camp. It's a minimum security, so it's not like full-on prison where there's, you know, high concertina wire fences and a lot of violence going. Could be a lot of violence erupting. I mean, violence happens, but actually fights happen more there than they did in prison because there's not as many guards watching people. But yeah, and it's 800-acre ranch, so we had the ability to ride probably 200 acres of it around the holding pens. We were allowed to go where the towers could see us. So when we got our horses to a point where we felt confident about taking them out of their pen, out of the round pen, out of the arena, that's where we would ride them. And then sometimes we would go down to the river with the boss and bring up the dairy herd. Or you get a rogue milk cow that wants to get away. So we gotta go round him up. No, but sometimes we have to bring up the beef herd. I'm sorry, but there would be times when the dairy cows would go rogue and we'd have to go get them. But you feel like you're doing something, right? I mean, you got this horse that was once wild, and you're like, yeah, I'll go get those dairy cows. Watch them do it, yeah. But in reality, it's just comical. It's great because I have something that I didn't know I had this skill, for one, and I'm thankful to Hank for developing that in me, because he was really on me. I mean, not like do this and do that. He would just watch me. I knew, and you could tell when somebody's watching you, and he would just, keep an eye on me and see if I was having problems, and then he'd let me try and figure it out. And if it looks like I really wasn't quite getting it, he would interject then, only then. First he'd ask me, what the hell are you trying to do with this horse? And I'd be like, what do you mean? He goes, well, I've been watching you for, a few minutes and I can't figure it out. And those type of comments are a little inflammatory. They kind of piss you off, I go, well, Hank, I'm trying to do this. And he goes, well, if I can't figure it out, I know he's not going to be able to figure it out. He goes, let me see him. So he'd play with him a little bit and came dialed into him, and he would do what I've been trying to do for the last maybe days. He'd do it in a few minutes, and then he'd have me do it. But he was always humble about it. He was really humble about it. He might start off like a smart aleck. He's just testing you out to see if you're open to learn something. Because if I say that to you or to somebody and you go, F you, man, I don't need this shit. You're not open to learning anything, right? So the horse program, it gave me the ability to have a career in the horse world, in the rescue world mostly. But now, since I live in South Dakota, there's not a lot of rescue type mindset there. It's quarter horses, foundation horses, and Arabs, and the whole gamut. And it's not often that I get a Mustang in my clientele, but it gave me that ability to support myself and to keep working on my healing and my growth as a human being. And it's priceless. I mean, looking back on it, if everybody sort of could see that about the program, they'd have one in every state. And you can't sort of tell somebody this is what's going to happen because maybe they're not ready for that. I wasn't. I'd be like, yeah, whatever. I just want to get off the prison. I want to go somewhere here. And then when it's all said and done, you still might not get it. When the moment's right, if you have an epiphany and you realize it, and there's just a little bit of learning, you can build on that, and it gets more and more, and then you're like, I'm really on a journey here to find myself. There's one final thing I'd like to share with everyone. If we start looking at horses as individuals and not as tools, just take a little time and open up your heart and look at a horse as if it was a person. Because they're as different as you and I. They're as different as your neighbor and yourself. They're really individuals, and try to look at that.